right, I think we are ready to go. Just need to start my video and we are ready. Okay. Good to see Mahamantra from Fiji. Wish you were here, Mahamantra. We'll get you here one way or the other. Even if we have to adopt you, we'll get you here somehow or other. Okay, so I guess we'll chant now. Mahamantra is trapped in Fiji. Poor guy. Probably one of the best places to be trapped in. He looks good, he looks happy. Saved from Bolivia. It's nice. Can you say a few words to us, Mahamantra? I'm allowing you to unmute.
Yes, you're there. Yeah, we're good to see you too. You're there.
So you were enjoying the preaching there?
Yes, it's very nice. Very intense.
Yeah, I wish I was there too, but they won't allow any foreigners into the country or out of the country at this point. So
yeah, hopefully soon.
Soon? Yeah.
Yeah.
2024. You might as well take citizenship there.
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, that'd be good. Then you for sure you can get to the United States.
I actually already asked about changing a visa, but I can't. Even for a work visa, I can't change it from the one I have. I have to go outside the country, they told me. So
We just take a boat for 5 minutes and go outside the country.
and come back.
And then come back. Anyway, I'm sure something could be arranged. I mean, they have a lot of contacts, the devotees.
Yeah.
Okay, so hopefully we'll see you soon in person.
Yes, we're here.
Once.
I hope.
All right, we'll see. Start class now. Jaya Rana Madhova Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Rana Madhova Jaya Kunja Vihari Vijana Palapa Jaya Giri Varurari Giri Varurari Vijana Palapa Jaya Giri Varurari Jaya Giri Varurari Yasoda Nandana Vajjana Nandana Yasoda Nandana Vajjana Nandana Yamuna Tira Manachari Rayo Kunja Vihari Rayo Kunja Vihari Yamuna Tira Manachari Kunja Vihari Kunja Vihari Jayo Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Vihari Jaya Rana Madhava Jaya Kunda Bihari Gopi Jana Ballabha Jaya Giri Varudari Giri Varudari Gopi Jana Ballabha Jaya Giri Varudari Jaya Giri Varudari Yasoda Nandana Pracha Jana Nandana Yasoda Nandana Pracha Jana Nandana Yamuna Tira Manachare Raya Kunja Vihare Jaya Kunja Vihare Yamuna Tira Manachare Raya Kunja Vihare Jaya Kunja Vihare Randamadhava Jaya Kunja Vihare Randamadhava Jaya Kunja Vihare Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravatikacharya also Teta Sadashi Shima Divine Grace of Ayacharana Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Friends, say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasati Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopikapatnath Shyam Kun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Mathuram Ki Jai Jagannath Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Lasi Devi Ki Jai Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Gaur. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Gaur Premananda Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Putle Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Dejatarni. So Om Ganantimirandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So we're continuing with our reading of the Caitanya Charitamrta. We are reading from the 7th chapter of the Adi Lila, beginning with text 145. So I think we're getting close to finishing this chapter. Let's see. In any case, let's get on with the nectar. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. So again, if you have any serious questions during the reading, you can raise your hand in the participants list, not on your picture. So let's start with text 145. Prema hoite Krishna hoya nija bhakta vasha Prema haite paya Krishnara seva sukha rasa. Okay. The Supreme Lord, who is greater than the greatest, becomes submissive to even a very insignificant devotee because of his devotional service. It is the beautiful and exalted nature of devotional service that the infinite Lord becomes submissive to the infinitesimal living entity because of it. In reciprocal devotional activities with the Lord, the devotee actually enjoys the transcendental mellow of devotional service. And of course, as we know, that's the sixth and last quality of pure devotional service. According to Srila Rupa Goswami in the Nectar Devotion, it is the only means to attract and control Krishna. But you have to be a pure devotee. Becoming one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not very important for a devotee. Mukti swayam vikundilan Mukulitanjali Sevate Sman. It's from the Krishna Caritamrta 107 by Bilvamangal Thakur, speaking from his actual experience. Srila Bilvamangal Thakur says that if one develops love of Godhead, mukti, liberation, becomes subservient and unimportant to him. Mukti stands before the devotee and is prepared to render all kinds of services. The Mayavadi philosopher's standard of mukti is very insignificant for a devotee. For by devotional service, even the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes subordinate to him. An actual example is that the Supreme Lord Krishna became the chariot driver of Arjuna, and when Arjuna asked him to draw his chariot between the two armies, Senior Vior Madhye Ratam Stapaya Mechuta, he's saying, "Oh, Achyuta, bring this chariot between both the armies." That's from the Bhagavad Gita, the first chapter, text 21. Krishna executed his order. Such is the relationship between the Supreme Lord and a devotee, that although the Lord is greater than the greatest, he is prepared to render service to his insignificant devotee by dint of his sincere and unalloyed service. Wow. Sambandha videya prayojana nama Aitinartha Sarve Sutra Paryavasana. One's relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, activities in terms of that relationship, and the ultimate goal of life, to develop love of God. These three subjects are explained in every aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra, for they form the culmination of the entire Vedanta philosophy. In other words, the three words used here in this verse are Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. Sambandha means understanding one's relationship. Abhideya means activities in terms of that relationship. And Prayojana means to reach the ultimate goal of life, pure love of Godhead. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, 5th chapter, 5th text, it is said, this is Lord Rishabhadev speaking, Parabhavastavadabodha jatto yavanna jigyasat atmatattvam. A human being is defeated in all his activities as long as he does not know the goal of life, which can be understood when one is inquisitive about Brahman. It is such inquiry that begins the Vedanta Sutra, Tato Brahma Jigyasa. In other words, now is the time to look for the absolute truth, to look for Brahman. A human being should be inquisitive to know who he is, what the universe is, what God is, and what the relationship is between himself, God, and the material world. Such questions cannot be asked by cats and dogs, for they must arise in the heart of a real human being. Knowledge of these four items, namely oneself, the universe, God, and their internal relationship, is called Sambandha Jnana, the knowledge of one's relationship. When one's relationship with the Supreme Lord is established, the next program is to act in that relationship. This is called Abhideya, or activity in relationship with the Lord. After executing such prescribed duties, one attains the highest goal of life, love of Godhead. He achieves Prayojana siddhi, or the fulfillment of his human mission. In the Brahma Sutra, Vedanta Sutra, these subjects are very carefully explained. Therefore, one who does not understand the Vedanta Sutra in terms of these principles is simply wasting his time. This is the version of the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, second chapter, text 8, another famous verse. Adharma swanastita pungsang vishaksena katasuya notpadiyad yadi aratim shama evi kevalam. One may be a very learned scholar and execute his prescribed duty very nicely, but if he does not ultimately become inquisitive about the Supreme Personality of Godhead and is indifferent to Shravanam, Kirtanam, and hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam, Prahlad Maharaj's instructions, 7.5.23. All that he has done is but a waste of time. My-body philosophers who do not understand the relationship between themselves, the cosmic manifestation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, are simply wasting their time, and their philosophical speculation has no value. So really, that's what differentiates a human being from animals, because human beings can ask the question, who am I? Where did I come from? What is God like? What is the relationship that I have with God? What is my relationship with the material world? What happens at the time of death? These are important questions. Actually, before I came to the Krishna conscious movement, I was asking these questions of different persons. First, my mother. And that was a waste of time, as they say in Germany. A waste. I know it's waste. So it was a waste of time. She said, don't ask those questions. Just enjoy life. Eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may die. And then I asked the question of my religious preceptor in the religion that I was brought up in. He said, my dear son, no one knows the answer to this. Okay. And I was thinking, you say no one knows. How do you know that no one knows? The only way you could know that no one knows was if you knew everybody, and you don't know everybody, and then you would know. My God, what a contradiction. So then went to some other religious leaders, and they said, it is a great mystery, my son. Great mystery, just wait, and God will reveal himself. And I thought, these people are bluffing. Why do we say they're bluffing? Because their whole lives they've been studying about God, and they don't know ABC. Like if you come to me, and I've been studying about Krishna, for over 50 years, and you say, Maharaj, who is Krishna? And I say, I don't know, great mystery. And you say, Maharaj, you are bogus. So therefore, after examining and talking to all these people and reading a whole bunch of books about God, I still didn't know anything. And then, by Krishna's mercy, I got the Bhagavad. And because, here's another thing, and because I was determined, I have to find out what the purpose of life is. Otherwise, what am I doing? Why am I studying? Why am I doing anything? It's all waste of time. If things have no meaning, I'm going to become an existentialist. I don't know if any of you know what an existentialist is. Existentialists have the philosophy that you make up your own meaning. And it doesn't matter because it's all relative. Whatever you make up is just as good as any other meaning that anyone else makes up, because there is no meaning. Everything is unreal. So, anyway, so I was thinking, there's no meaning. Let me become an existentialist. And then, fortunately, I started to pray to God, because I thought, God, you must have a meaning. You can't do something without any meaning. I said, God, show me the way. My dear Lord, show me the way. And then there was a bright star in the sky. A bright star in the sky. And the star started speaking. Yes, my son. Oh, that's just a story. Don't take that literally. You think that's true. No. Then what happened is all of a sudden someone handed me one of Prabhupada's books. That's what happened. Yes, there was a bright star. The bright star was Prabhupada's books, and Prabhupada manifesting through his books. And I got the book, and I said, wow, that's it. I'm not the body. I'm part and parcel of Krishna. Haribo. And then Abhidheya, chant. Okay, Hare Krishna, Om. So I started to chant Om anyway in Hare Krishna. And so that was by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. I was able to understand these things. But actually, from the very time that I can remember becoming conscious in this life, I was looking for the purpose of life. From the very time when I just came out of my mother's womb, I started to, no, not really, but I started to ask that question. That's what differentiates a human being from an animal. Animal, they ask questions too. Yeah, animals ask questions. What do you think the birds do when they're going tweet, 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 tweet? The birds are saying, where is food? Or where is my territory? Or where is my beloved birdini? Birdini is feminine for bird. Birdini. I know there's no word like that, but it's just, you have to have some humor. Where is my sweet little female bird? Actually, the interesting thing is, amongst birds, the males are more decorated than the females. When you have birds, the males are the one who wear jewelry and colorful clothing. Like you see a peacock that's a male, and the peacock is beautiful, with his peacock feathers. Why does he have peacock feathers? You might say, wow, he has peacock feathers to give them to Krishna. Yeah, that's one reason. But he has peacock feathers to attract the peahen. The peahen is the female of the species. And he dances. He struts and frets. And if anyone's seen a peacock in person when they're in mating season, he spreads his feathers out like a radar antenna. And he circulates around the peahen and vibrates his feathers. And the peahen falls in love with him. So that's the birds. So anyway, so the birds have their language. But their language is simply, where is food? Where is my peahen? Defense, of course, territorial stuff. Eating, sleeping, mating, defending. That's it. For the animals. You may say, oh, they play a little bit, but that play is actually training up so they can catch their prey later on. Just like when I was young, we used to have a pet cat, and the cat would play by grabbing things, because that's what the cats do. And then when the cat got older, the cat would go out and catch different small creatures. And because the cat loved me so much, the cat would bring back the small creatures as offerings to me. Anyway, let's get to the point. So, anyway, so people are wasting. So that's sambandha, understanding those things. And abhideya is acting in terms of that understanding. And prayojana is reaching spiritual perfection. Okay, text 147. E mata sarva sutrena vakyana shuniya sakala sannyasi kahe vinaya kariya. When all the Mayavadi sannyasis thus heard the explanation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on the basis of sambandha, abhideya, and prayojana, that's the relationship, acting in terms of the relationship and the ultimate goal, they spoke very humbly. Everyone who actually desires to understand the Vedanta philosophy must certainly accept the explanation of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Vaishnavacharyas, who have also commented on the Vedanta Sutra according to the principles of Bhakti Yoga. After hearing the explanation of Vedanta Sutra from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the sannyasis headed by Prakasananda Saraswati became very humble and obedient to the Lord, and then spoke as follows, or they spoke as follows. Vedamayi murti tume sakshat narayana kshama parada purveye kailun nindana. Dear sir, you are the Vedic knowledge personified and directly Narayana himself. Kindly excuse us for all the offenses we have previously committed by criticizing you. So the complete path of Bhakti Yoga is based upon the process of becoming humble and submissive. By the grace of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all the Mayavadi sannyasis were very humble and submissive after hearing his explanation of the Vedanta Sutra, and they begged to be pardoned for the offenses they had committed by criticizing the Lord for simply chanting and dancing and not taking part in the study of the Vedanta Sutra. We are propagating the Krishna consciousness movement simply by following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. We may not be very well versed in the Vedanta Sutra aphorisms and may not understand their meaning, but we follow in the footsteps of the acharyas, and because of our strictly and obediently following in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it is to be understood that we know everything regarding the Vedanta Sutra. Prabhupada here is being very humble. He knows every aphorism of the Vedanta Sutra. and the meaning of it. Say haite sanyasira purigelan mana Krishna Krishna nama sada karaye grahana. For that moment, when the Mayavadi sannyasis, from that moment, when the Mayavadi sannyasis heard the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra from the Lord, their minds changed, and on the instruction of Caitanya Mahaprabhu, they too chanted Krishna, Krishna, always. In this connection, it may be mentioned that sometimes the Sahaja class of devotees opine, that means give the opinion, that Prakashananda Saraswati and Prabhupada Saraswati are the same man. Prabhupada Saraswati was a great Vaishnava devotee of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but Prakashananda Saraswati, the head of the Mayavadi sannyasis in Benares, was a different person. Prabhupada Saraswati belonged to the Ramanuja Sampradaya, whereas Prakashananda Saraswati belonged to the Shankaracharya Sampradaya. Prabhupada Saraswati wrote a number of books, among which are the Caitanya Chandramrita, Radha Rasa Suranidhi, Sangita Madhava, Brindavana Shataka, and Navadvip Shataka. While traveling in southern India, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met Prabhupada Saraswati, who had two brothers, Venkata and Tirumalaya Bhatta, who were Vaishnavas of the Ramanuja Sampradaya. Gopal Bhatta Goswami, we talked about this the other day, was the nephew of Prabodhananda Saraswati. From historical records, it is found that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu traveled in South India in the year 1433, Shakhabda, that's AD 1511, during the Chaturmasya period, and it was at that time that he met Prabodhananda, who belonged to the Ramanuja Sampradaya. How then could the same person meet him as a member of the Shankara Sampradaya in 1435, Shakhabda, 2 years later? It is to be concluded that the guests of the Sahaja Sampradaya, that Prabodhananda Saraswati and Prakashananda Saraswati were the same man, is a mistaken idea. Okay? Emate tansabara kshami aparada sabha kare Krishna nama kurila prasada. Thus, Lord Chaitanya excused all the offenses of the Mayavadi sannyasis and very mercifully blessed them with Krishna nama. It means he initiated them. Wow. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the mercy incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is addressed by Srila Rupa Goswami as Mahavadanyāvatara, or the most magnanimous incarnation. Srila Rupa Goswami also says, Karunayavatirnaha kalo. It is only by his mercy that he has descended in this age of Kali. Here this is exemplified. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not like to see Mayavadi sannyasis because he thought of them as offenders to the lotus feet of Krishna, but here he excuses them. Kansavarakshami aparada. This is an example in preaching. Apani achari bhakti shikainu savare. That's the example of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu teaches us that those whom preachers meet are almost all offenders who are opposed to Krishna consciousness, but it is a preacher's duty to convince them of the Krishna conscious movement and then induce them to chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Our propagation of the Sankirtan movement is continuing despite many opponents, and people are taking up this chanting process even in remote parts of the world, like Africa. By inducing the offenders to chant the Hare Krishna mantra, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu exemplified the success of the Krishna consciousness movement. We should follow very respectfully in the footsteps of Lord Chaitanya, and there is no doubt that we shall be successful in our attempts. In the same way, Srila Prabhupada came to New York, sat down in Tompkins Square Park, started chanting, and I wouldn't say that people were offenders, but they were just like lower than the low hippies. And then they joined, and the movement was started, just because of the potency of the holy name, which was brought down by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. So, Tabi Sabha Sannyasi Mahaprabhu Ke Liha Viksha Kare Lena Sabe Maje Vasaya. After this, all the sannyasis took the Lord into their midst, and thus they all took their meal together. Previously, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had neither mixed nor talked with the Mayavad sannyasis, but now he took lunch with them. It is to be concluded that when Lord Chaitanya induced them to chant Hare Krishna and excuse them for their offenses, they were purified, and therefore there was no objection to taking lunch or Bhagavad Prasad with them, although Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu knew that the food had not been offered to the deity. Mayavadi sannyasis do not worship the deity, or if they do so, they generally worship the deity of Lord Shiva or the Panchopasana. It's a complete speculation. Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, Durga Devi, Ganesh, and Surya. Here we do not find any mention of the demigods or Vishnu, and yet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted food in the midst of the sannyasis on the basis that they had chanted the Hare Krishna mantra and that he had excused their offenses. Vikshakari Mahaprabhu Oila Vasagara Ena Chitra Lilakare Oranga Sundara. After taking lunch with the Mayavadi sannyasis, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is known as Gaura Sundara, returned to his residence. Thus the Lord performs his wonderful pastimes. Chandrasekhara Tapan Mishra Hara Sanatana Shuni Deki Anandita Sabakara Mada. Hearing the arguments of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and seeing his victory, Chandrasekhara, Tapan Mishra, and Sanatan Goswami were all extremely pleased, because Sanatan Goswami was taking instruction from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time, because previously he had escaped from prison. He was been put in prison by the Nawab Hussain Shah, because Nawab Hussain Shah did not like to lose him, because he's previously like the finance minister or manager in the Nawab Hussain Shah's kingdom. Here's an example of how a sannyasi should preach. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to Varanasi, he went there alone, not with a big party. Locally, however, he made friendships with Chandrasekhar and Tapan Mishra, and Sanatan Goswami also came to see him. Therefore, although he did not have many friends there, due to his sound preaching and his victory in arguing with the local sannyasis in the Vedanta philosophy, he became greatly famous in that part of the country, as explained in the next verse. Prabhu ke dekite ase sakala sannyasi prabhura prashamsa kare sabavaranasi. Many Mayavadi sannyasis of Varanasi came to see the Lord after this incident, and the entire city praised him. Wow. Varanasi Puri Aila Shri Krishna Chaitanya Puri Saha Sarvaloka Haila Mahadanya. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu visited the city of Varanasi, and all the people were very thankful. Laksha, Loka Ise, Prabhu Ke Dekite, Mahabhila Hoila Dware, Nare Praveshite. The crowd at the door of his residence was so great that it numbered hundreds of thousands. Prabhu Yabe Yanna Vishveshvara Dara Shane, Laksha Loka Asi Mile Se Stane. When the Lord went to visit the temple of Vishveshvara, hundreds of thousands of people assembled to see him. The important point in this verse is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly visited the temple of Vishveshvara, Lord Shiva, at Varanasi. Vaishnavas generally do not visit the demigod's temple, but here we see that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu regularly visited the temple of Vishveshvara, who was the predominating deity of Varanasi. Generally, Mayavadi sannyasis and worshippers of Lord Shiva live in Varanasi. But how is it that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who took the part of a Vaishnava sannyasi, also visited the Vishveshvara temple? The answer is that a Vaishnava does not behave impudently toward the demigods. A Vaishnava gives proper respect to all, although he never accepts a demigod to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Brahma Samhita, there are mantras offering obeisances to Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, the sun god, and Lord Ganesh, as well as Lord Vishnu, all of whom are worshipped by the impersonalists as Panchopasana. That means the 5 speculated deities. Actually, they make up so many deities in India. There's even, or methods of worship in India. There's even temples to rats in India. you don't believe me, you can Google it. In their temples and personalists install deities of Lord Vishnu, Lord Shiva, the sun god, goddess Durga, sometimes Lord Brahma also. And the system is continuing at present in India under the guise of the Hindu religion. Now, let me talk a little bit about Hinduism. So, the Hindu word, or the word Hindu, is a geographical designation that was employed originally by those people who were, like the Parsis, they used the word Sindhu. And then others, because they couldn't pronounce, like the Parsis, because they couldn't pronounce the S, it became Hindu. And that's where the word Hindu came, and it referred to everybody living on the land of India. So it's a geographical designation for people who followed religion in the land of India. And later on, it became a so-called religion. Vaishnavas can also worship all these demigods, but only on the principles of the Brahma Samhita, which is recommended by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. We may note in this connection the mantras for worshiping Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Goddess Durga, the sun god Ganesh, as described in the Brahma Samhita. Shristi Stiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Rekha Jayeva Yasha Bhuvanani Vivarti Durga Ichanu Rupam Api Yasha Chacheshtate Sa Govindamati Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The external potency Maya, who is of the nature of the spiritual potency, is worshipped by all people as Durga, the creating, preserving, and destroying agency of this mundane world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in accordance with whose will Durga conducts herself. Durga is also known as Brahma Samhita 5-4. So Durga also means to move with great difficulty. She's considered to be the superintendent of this prison house of the material world, and she's married to Lord Shiva. And then, Shiram Yatad Dadi Vikara Visheshi Yogat Sanjayate Nahi Tata Pata Gasti Heto Yaksang Bhutam Api Tata Samupaiti Karyad Govindamati Purusham Tamaham Vajami. Milk is transformed into curd by the actions of acids, yet the effect curd is neither the same nor different from its cause, that is milk. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, of whom the state of Shambhu, that's Lord Shiva, is a similar transformation for the performance of the work of destruction. Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, text 45, and then, Bhashvan yatasma sakaleshu nijeshu tejas vyam kiyat prakatayat yapi tadvaratra brahmaya yesha jagananda vidana karta govindamadi purusham tamaham bhajami. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, from whom the separated subjective portion, Brahma, receives his power for the regulation of the mundane world, just as the sun manifests a portion of his own light in all the effulgent gems that bear such names as Surya, Kanta. Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, text 49. The next one is about Ganesh. Yat Pada Palava Yugam Vinidaya Kumbha Dvandve Pranamya Pranama Samaye Sa Ganadi Raja Vignan Vihantam Alamasha Jagaratrayasha Govindamari Purusham Tamaham Vajami. I worship the primeval Lord Govinda. Ganesh always holds his lotus. Ganesh is the son of Lord Shiva and Durga. Always holds his lotus feet upon the pair of tumuli. That means like little antennas, protruding from his elephant head in order to obtain power for his function of destroying all the obstacles in the path of progress in the three worlds. Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, text 50. Yaschakshuresha savita sakala grahanam raja samasta suramurti asesha teja yashagaya brahmati samrita kala chakro govindamari purusham tamaham bhajami. The sun, full of infinite effulgence, who is the king of all planets, and the image of the good soul, is like the eye of this world. I adore the primeval Lord Govinda, in pursuance of his order, the sun performs his journey, mounting the wheel of time. Brahma Samhita, 5th chapter, text 52. All the demigods are servants of Krishna. They are not equal to Krishna. Therefore, even if one goes to a temple of the Panchopasana, as mentioned above, one should not accept the deities as they are accepted by the impersonalists. All of them are to be accepted as personal demigods, but they all serve the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shankaracharya, for example, is understood to be an incarnation of Lord Shiva as described in the Padma Purana. He propagated the Mayavada philosophy under the order of the Supreme Lord. We have already discussed this point in text 114 of this chapter. Tanurdoshanahi teno agyakari dasa. Shankaracharya is not at fault, for he has thus covered the real purport of the Vedas under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Although Lord Shiva, in the form of a Brahmin, Shankaracharya preached the false philosophy of Mayavada, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu nevertheless said that he did it on the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There was no fault on his part. Tanra dosha nahi, and we explained why that was many times in the past classes. We must offer respect to all the demigods. If one can offer respects even to an ant, why not to the demigods? One must always know, however, that no demigod is equal to or above the Supreme Lord. Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabdavricha, Chaitanya Charitamrta, Adi Lila, 5th chapter, text 142. Only Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all others, including the demigods such as Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, Goddess Durga, and Ganesha, are his servants. Everyone serves the purpose of the Supreme Godhead, and what to speak of such small and insignificant living entities as ourselves. We are surely eternal servants of the Lord. The Mayavada philosophy maintains that the demigods, the living entities, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are all equal, which is ridiculous. It is therefore a most foolish misrepresentation of Vedic knowledge. So, Snana karite yabe yana ganga tire. Tahani sakala loka haya mahabide. Whenever Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to the banks of the Ganges to take his bath, big crowds of many hundreds of thousands of people assembled there. Bahutuli Prabhu Bale, Bala Hari Hari, Hari Dwani, Kari Loka Swaga Marcha Bhari. Whenever the crowds were too great, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu stood up, raised his hands, and chanted, Hari Hari, to which all the people responded, filling both the land and the sky with the vibration. Text 160. Loka nisthariya prabhura chalite hailamana. Vrindavane pathaila Sri Sanatana. After thus delivering the people in general, the Lord desired to leave Varanasi. After instructing Sri Sanatana Goswami, he sent him toward Vrindavan. The actual purpose of Lord Chaitanya's stay at Varanasi after coming back from Vrindavan was to meet Sanatana Goswami and teach him. Sanatana Goswami met Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu after the Lord's return to Varanasi, where the Lord taught him for 2 months about the intricacies of Vaishnava philosophy and Vaishnava activities. After completely instructing him, he sent him to Vrindavana to execute his orders. When Sanatana Goswami went to Vrindavan, there were no temples. The city was lying vacant like an open field. Wow. Sanatana Goswami sat down on the bank of the Yamuna, and after some time, he gradually constructed the first temple, and then other temples were constructed, and now the city is full of temples, numbering about 5,000. So the temple that Sanatana Goswami constructed was called the Madan Mohan Temple, and the place where Sanatana Goswami resided is called Dwarasaditya Tila. Tila means hill. So it's called Dwarasaditya because it means 12 sons. And the reason it's called 12 sons is that's the place that Krishna rested after kicking the Kaliya serpent and driving the Kaliya serpent and his wives, not Krishna's wives, the Kaliya serpent's wives, out of Vrindavan. So when Krishna got out of the water, he was cold. So he climbed this hill to get some sunshine, and the sun, in order to serve him, shone forth with 12 times the normal brilliance to dry Krishna up. And that's called Dwarasaditya Tilo, or Dwarasaditya Hill. So there's an interesting story about Sanatana Goswami's temple. So the deity that Sanatana Goswami worshipped is called Madan Mohan. Now, there's a story about Madan Mohan. Once upon a time, Madan Mohan was called Madan Gopal. He was originally discovered by Advaitacharya. And of course, Madan Mohan was installed by Brajanava, Krishna's great-grandson. Anyway, Advaitacharya discovered Madan Mohan, and when Advaitacharya left Vrindavan after his pilgrimage, he gave him to a family in Mathura, a family was called the Brahmin family, Chobe family. Okay, gave him. But the family was worshipping Madan Mohan, who at that time was called Madan Gopal, in a very special way because they didn't put him on the altar. They actually treated him like their son. And this deity, Madan Mohan, actually sat at the dinner table with the whole family, or if they didn't have a table, but, sat on the floor with the whole family, played marbles with the son, the other son. And so it was a very intimate relationship they had with the deity because they didn't understand anything about deity worship, but they were pure devotees, so that's all right for them. So later on, Sanatana Goswami visits them and sees the deity being treated just like an ordinary person, which Krishna liked. And he told him, you can't treat the deity like that. You have to put him on the altar. So that night, Sanatana Goswami had a dream, and the deity appeared to him and said, why have you spoiled all my fun? Now I am just stuck here on this altar. No fun being on an altar. And because of that, you're going to have to take care of me. And Sanatana Goswami said, no, can't take care of you. You just stay where you are. Madan Gopal, stay where you are. I'm a sannyasi, don't have anything. I have to write literatures. I got so much service for Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Remain as you are, stani stita. So, but then the Brahmin who was taking care of the deity in the Chobe family, he had a dream, and Madan Mohan instructed him, bring me to Sanatana Goswami on top of Dwadasadicha hill. And so the Brahmin came, and he gave Sanatana Goswami the deity. Sanatana Goswami objected and said, what am I going to do? How am I going to cook? And Krishna said to him, I'll just eat whatever you eat. Now, Sanatana Goswami was just eating very simply. Didn't even take the trouble to cook. He would just put things out in the sun. Like he'd take some wheat or something like that and roll into a ball or in a flat or whatever it is, put it in the sun to cook because the sun was very strong at that time. So the deity was fed those things for some time. But then after a while, Madan Mohan said to Sanatana Goswami, can I please have some salt? This is a little something, just eating dried bread all the time, gets to you. And Sanatana Goswami said, look, I don't have time for such a thing. If you want salt, you have to get it yourself. So then a few days later, there was a salt barge going down the Jamuna because the Dwadachadicha hill overlooks the Jamuna River. And this salt barge was going to Mathura to deliver salt, which is actually very popular in India. People love salt. They put too much salt in their food. That's the culture. Even Fiji, it's like that. Too much salt. And so many people have high blood pressure, die, kidney disease because they go too much salt. But anyway, the salt barge was going to Mathura, and it got stuck in the river. And just like, there's a shallow portion of the river, and it got stuck because the river water had gone down. There hadn't been too much rain. And so the captain of the boat and the owner of the boat, they came to Sanatana Goswami and said, Swamiji, you have to help us. And, generally you go to a Swami or whatever, ask for prayers, blessings, what have you. And Sanatana Goswami, I can't do it. He said, I can't do anything. You have to go to Madan Mohan, my deity, and ask him. Maybe he could do something. He's God. He can do anything. So they went and prayed, Madan Mohan, please help us. Our salt barge is stuck. And so all of a sudden there was rain, tremendous amount of rain. The level of the river rose, and the barge was freed. And so the owner decided, hey, our barge was freed by the mercy of Madan Mohan. So let's build a temple for him. So they used the profits. So Madan Mohan got his own salt, a whole barge full. And he got the money to build a temple, and the temple of Sanatana Goswami, which is known as the Madan Mohan Temple, built upon Dwadasadicha Hill, was made, and that was the first temple there. Now, Prabhupada said the city is full of temples, numbering about 5,000. The main temples were constructed by the Goswamis and their followers and associates. So, with that happy note, we're going to stop sharing so we can take some questions. That's the story of Sanatana Goswami and Madan Mohan. There's other stories about Sanatana Goswami, especially the story of him escaping from prison is kind of nice. If someone asks, I'll tell that story. Okay, Rakesh, you have a question?
Yes, Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances.
Okay, so what's the question?
Gurudev, the question is, can you please tell them more about the goddess Durga? Like, she is the external potency. So we know that Srimati Radharani is the internal potency, and she lives
Yes.
uh, in Goloka with the Krishna. So does goddess Durga, does she also live in the Vrindavan, like in the transcendental world, or she has only to do with the material world?
Well, that's an interesting point. Actually, there is someone by the name Durga in the transcendental world, but it's not the same Durga that's in the material world. First of all, you have the energies of the Lord. Srimati Radharani is the Adi Shakti of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And from her expand her principal associates, like the 8 gopis, 108 gopis, etc., like that. And from them expand the wives in Dwarka. And from the wives in Dwarka, the different Lakshmis or Lakshmi expands. And then, just as Krishna expands as Lord Shiva, then from those potencies, Durga expands in this material world. So that's Durga. She's actually an expansion of expansion of expansion, just like Lord Shiva is described in the Brahma Samhita verse that we just read, as yogurt as compared to milk. Like you have milk, you make yogurt from milk, but you can't make milk from yogurt. So in the same way, Krishna's internal potency expands again and again and again, and finally that expansion deals with the material world, but that expansion is not equal to the expansions of Lakshmi or the expansions of Radharani in the spiritual realm. And she consorts with Lord Shiva. Durga is our mother, and Lord Shiva, in one sense, is our father, at least the mother and father of these bodies. And she's the word Durga means to move with great difficulty. So that's Durga.
Gurudev.
All right?
Yes.
You got it. So, yes, we respect Durga as the potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
So if anyone
Okay.
worships, yes.
What?
Fine.
What?
If
What's the
anybody,
question?
because since I am a Jaini, but we also, when I was born, like we shave our hair and we offer it to Lord Durga because she is my clan goddess.
Yeah, that's fine.
And so I also worship her along with the Lord Krishna. And I have a photo, and I felt that she wanted me her photo next to him. So if anybody like, not really a question, but I think I get it. It's like if even if you worship, she's also a Vaishnavi, I guess, and she will deliver you to Lord Krishna, and then you get liberated. I
Yeah,
think that.
she's Vaishnavi. You should worship her not alongside Lord Krishna, but on a lower level. Just like
Yes,
you put great devotees on a lower level, so she's a great devotee. Yes, she's a pure devotee. She's Vaishnavi, is another name of Durga. So we respect her. And guess what? Durga likes to eat Mahaprasadam. One time, I'm not going to tell the whole story, one time Lord Shiva had gotten Mahaprasadam and he didn't share with Durga. And she got extremely angry because he said, "You're not qualified to take Mahaprasadam." And she got really angry, started to worship Vishnu, and Vishnu agreed that not only could she take Mahaprasadam, but she could give it out to everybody within the material world, to all of her children, including me. I'm one of her sons. I'm a Durga Putra. Okay?
yes,
All right.
Gurudev.
I think Jagat has a question.
Are the wives of Krishna's sons and grandsons and descendants also expansions of Radharani or Lakshmi? Or only the
No.
Vishnu Tattva sons and grandsons? Or
Yeah, only the Vishnu Tattva sons and grandsons.
because that would be Pradyumna was married to what was it, Rati? So was she an
Rati.
expansion?
No, she was actually Cupid's wife, but she was empowered. But Pradyumna had more than one wife. In those days, people had a lot of consorts. We don't recommend it.
And Aniruddha had more than one wife too.
Yes. Usha was his favorite.
Was she an expansion of Lakshmi or Radharani?
I don't know. I never asked her. She was Manasura's daughter, but that's a real love story. That's an amazing love story. I mean, if you talk about love stories, you have a whole movie about that story, about how she had a dream of Aniruddha, her husband to be, and she was just like madly in love. And then she had a friend, Chitralekha, who was a mystic yogini, who could somehow or other bring a photographic album, or maybe she had an iPad or something like that, with all the pictures of all the men in the universe. She went on Facebook. That's funny. She went on Facebook. Anyway, sorry about that. So she had a picture of she drew pictures of all the men in the universe. And, there was a picture of Krishna, and said, well, you're getting close there. And Pradyumna, you're getting close. Well, Aniruddha, he's him. And she said to her friend, kidnap him. So Chitralekha, that's quite cool, isn't it? I mean, it's just like reverse Swayamvara. Usually the Kshatriyas would actually kidnap their wives to be. That's called a Rakshasa marriage. So she had her boyfriend, even before they got married, as a boyfriend. So anyway, she had her boyfriend kidnapped by her friend, Chitralekha. Chitralekha flew through the airwaves, brought her boyfriend back, and she was meeting with her boyfriend privately, secretly, in her house. Father comes up and discovers, hey, what's going on here? My dear daughter has become polluted. And he basically arrests Aniruddha. And then Krishna has to come to free him. That's actually that's such a lovely love story, even for sannyasis. Because if anyone ever kidnapped me, I would run away as fast as I could. Oh, Sanatana Goswami, here's information. Sanatana Goswami said Chitralekha is a Yogamaya expansion. That's nice. Whether she was actually a empowered expansion or direct expansion, that's another thing. Sometimes there's empowered expansions, direct expansions. We don't know. So anyway, that's an amazing story. So anyway, whatever it is, it's romantic. And by hearing about Krishna's romantic stuff and Krishna's son's romantic stuff, you lose a desire to be romantic yourself. That's actually good. So it's said, you hear about Krishna's affairs with the gopis from the right person. You hear about Krishna's interactions with his wives from the right person. You hear about Pradyumna's interactions or Aniruddha's interactions. Is Subhadra Devaki's daughter? No. Subhadra is the daughter of another wife of Vasudeva. That's what Prabhupada said. So Hrishikesh just asked me asked me that question. Vasudeva had many wives. I forget how many wives, so maybe someone remembers. 13? 12? Anyway, whatever it was a lot.
I think he had thousands. I mean, he had a lot of wives.
No, not 1,000. No. Vasudeva did not have 1,000 wives. 16. 16! Champaka would know. 16 wives. I mean, at least auspicious. If you're going to have wives, they should do it in multiples of 8. 3 is inauspicious. Actually, Prabhupada said if you give someone 3 things, it means he's your enemy. Did you know that? That's why I wonder why sometimes devotees are offering 3 sweet balls to the deities or 3 puris to the deities. No, Durga and Yogamaya are not the same. So I wonder why people are doing that, because Prabhupada said you offer 3 to your enemy, or 3 sticks of incense. Prabhupada actually said that. You offer 3 of something to your enemy. So, anyway, so let's say Durga, 16 wives, and one of those wives was the mother of Subhadra. So, who else has a question? Oh, Gopal Cohen has a question.
Thank you, Gurudev.
Yeah.
So Sanatana Goswami, Rupa Goswami, and Anupama were all householders. Is there any
Yeah,
information?
of course. Yeah, they were all householders. Yeah, because Anupama, his son, was Jiva Goswami.
So is there any information of the wives or the families of the great personalities?
Wow, your voice is really breaking up. Is there any information about the wives of Sanatan and Rupa Goswami? No, not that I have information of.
What about any children of those?
I don't have any information. All I know is that Anupama was the father of Srila Jiva Goswami, and he was the nephew of Sanatana and Rupa Goswami.
Is there any information about the name of the wife of Vasudeva, who was Subhadra's mother?
There must be, but Prabhupada didn't give it to us. Unless someone has that information, I don't have that information.
Thank you, Gurudev.
But Prabhupada, from what I read of Prabhupada, Prabhupada said that Subhadra was the daughter of another wife of Vasudeva. And Subhadra is Yogamaya, but Yogamaya was also born, actually Durga, who's also called Yogamaya sometimes, but Durga's an expansion of Yogamaya. So Durga was born from Devaki too. Not born from Devaki. She actually was transferred. She was transferred from Vrindavan to Mathura, and then Kamsa tried to kill her, and she flew up into the air, and she said, the child is meant to kill you has already been born. So, who has another question?
Gurudev, then who is Yogamaya? Can you please explain?
Yogamaya is the expansion. She's an expansion of Radharani who arranges for Radha and Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, and she expands as the external energy. In the spiritual world, Yogamaya arranges for the Lord's pastimes, and Yogamaya appears as Purnamasi, who incidentally is the mother of Sandapani Muni, who is Krishna's guru. She's the grandmother of Madhu Mangal. Madhu Mangal is Krishna. You don't know
I'm gonna
Madhu
write it
Mangal.
down. No.
What?
I'm gonna write it down. What you're saying.
Anuradhika? What?
No, nothing.
Anyway, everybody's voice is breaking up. So Madhu Mangala is Krishna's funny boyfriend, Brahmin boyfriend, who makes funny sounds sometimes and begs ladus. So Yogamaya arranges for Radha and Krishna's pastimes. And she arranges for Krishna to forget that he's God, and she arranges for us to forget that Krishna's God when we're in the spiritual world. But right now, Mahamaya is arranging for us to forget Krishna. Mahamaya is arranging for us to think we're these bodies. Mahamaya is arranging for us to think that we are of a particular nationality. Mahamaya is arranging for us to enjoy eating, sleeping, mating, defending.
So just one question now. So I thought Tulsi Devi is Maharani arranges for Krishna's Lord Krishna and Srimati Radharani.
That's Vrinda Devi. Yeah, Tulsi Devi is Vrinda Devi, yes. She also
So-
arranges the Vrindavan forest. Her business is arranging the Vrindavan forest for Radha and Krishna's pastimes. And they all work under Yogamaya, Purnamasi.
Oh, okay.
Purnamasi is the boss.
Okay. So Yogamaya is in the spiritual world. Her material counterpart would be Mahamaya.
Material counterpart would be Mahamaya, yes.
Okay, Gurudev.
And we are under Mahamaya right now.
Yes.
Mama Maya Durachya, Mama Eva Ye Prapajante. So, Durachya, very difficult to overcome. So, who else has a question? Jaga, your hand is still up? No?
Sorry, no, I forgot to take it down.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? Hey, Pran Govinda, you didn't ask any questions tonight. What happened? You're not feeling well?
Please accept my humble obeisances, all goes to Prabhupada, Gurudev.
All glories to Prabhupada. So what's the
Yeah.
question?
I'm trying to ascertain from your teachings, very nice. You have to correct me. I want to just express what I understood so far.
Okay.
That the impersonalists, especially the Banaras Mayavadis, their conception of Brahman was absence of material variegatedness.
The absence of spiritual variegatedness, absence of any variegatedness.
But it does not have anything spiritual literally, in a sense that because when we think of impersonal Brahman, we think it's an emanation of Krishna's body. So it's a difference.
That's right.
And their focus is on the absence of material variegatedness. They don't focus anything about spiritual, but they think
No, they
that
say that there's no spiritual variegatedness, no material variegatedness, no variegatedness. Ultimately, it's all vivarta or illusion.
So when they worship Panchopasana, Vishnu, what is the conception?
What is the conception? You can worship anything. Yatoma tatupat. That they're manifestations of the material mode of goodness. And by worshiping them, you can rise to a higher platform, and ultimately you give up the worship. That's their conception. It's like Prabhupada talks about the Mayavadis worshiping the spiritual master. He said they treat the spiritual master like a ladder, that after they reach the level, they kick him away. So in other words, their worship of Panchopasana is like a stepping stone, but after that, you give it up. You know, you can worship Krishna, you can worship whoever, but that's just to bring you to a certain level, but ultimately it's an illusion.
So Maharaj, these three conceptions that Sambandha, Vidya and Prayojan, that established by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the essential principle in entire Veda, and every aphorism, everything should be seen.
Well, these are not the essential principle, the essential categories in the Vedas.
Essential categories, correct.
Yeah,
so
principles
then,
and categories are different. Yeah.
So then, what made them to get convinced? Is it like a pure Mahaprabhu's convincing power, or it is like they were literally?
Well, because Mahaprabhu gave a more specific, direct understanding of the Vedanta Sutra. It was clear. Like if someone gives a clear explanation, that makes much more sense than someone gives an unclear explanation. Also, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's exhibition of the brilliance of, 10,000 times the sunshine when he first walked in there. You know, there's many different things. His effulgence, his philosophical explanation, his humility, all those things actually combine to convince the impersonalists. And his spiritual potency, of course.
How it can relevant to us, like what can I do or we can learn through this, that we can apply in our life that would attract people to come to Krishna consciousness.
Stay away from Mayavadis.
Stay away. Okay.
Lord Chaitanya, especially as Majjhimadikaris, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu could get the lions and the deer and all the, or tigers, sorry. I don't know if they were lions, but the tigers and the deer and everybody to chant Hare Krishna. We can't do that. That's what
But
we can do.
Maharaj, in Bhagavad Gita 4:10,
Yeah.
in the purport, Prabhupada said we are born with 3 attachments. And one
We're
of them
born
is
with
Maya.
what?
We are born with 3 attachments.
Yeah, that's right.
And one of them
But we're
is
not,
impersonalism.
Mayavadis. We're born with attachments.
But one of them is impersonal.
That's right. But we don't have a personal philosophy. We're not philosophical Mayavadis. We just like deal impersonally because of our experiences in this world. But we're not like preaching the Vedanta Sutra according to indirect interpretation. It's a little bit different. Okay, it's end. Time to go. All right, so
Thank
we'll
you.
see everybody tomorrow evening, same time, same station.